They had the hits, they had the fans, they had the world in the palm of their hands. But success, the very thing they chased for years, became the exact thing that tore them apart. Fame didn't save these groups, it destroyed them. What you're about to hear are the real stories behind 12 R&B acts who climbed all the way to the top and couldn't survive what was waiting for them there. Some fell apart over money, some over egos, some over love, and some over secrets the public never fully knew. Stay with us, because by the time we get to number 1, you will not believe how far they fell. Number 12, The Fifth Dimension. If you were alive in the late 60s, you know this group. You know that voice, that sound, that energy. The Fifth Dimension burst onto the scene in 1967 with a style that was impossible to categorize, too polished for soul, too soulful for pop, and too good to ignore. I end each day the way I started. Songs like Up, Up and Away and their legendary medley from Hair, Aquarius / Let the Sunshine In gave them back-to-back Grammy Awards and made them one of the most recognizable acts in the entire country. But underneath the sunshine and optimism, something was fracturing. The group was built on a unique chemistry. 5 voices, 5 personalities, 5 very different ideas about where the music should go. As the decade turned, the tastes of America began to shift. Funk was rising, harder soul was taking over. And the Fifth Dimension's smooth and orchestrated sound started to feel out of step with the times. One less man to pick up. Then came the internal strain. Founding member Florence LaRue and Marilyn McCoo, the 2 female voices of the group, were navigating very different personal trajectories. My life's so empty. McCoo, who had married fellow member Billy Davis Jr., began eyeing a duo career. When that duo launched and hit big with You Don't Have to Be a Star, the Fifth Dimension lost its 2 most recognizable voices. Can't be done. Each time the hits dried up, the bookings shrank, and the group that once headlined Las Vegas and won 5 Grammys in a single year quietly faded into nostalgia circuits. Success hadn't just spoiled them, it had given McCoo and Davis the confidence to leave. And without them, the magic was simply gone. Number 11, The Dramatics. Detroit gave the world a lot of gifts. The Dramatics were one of them. Formed in the early 60s, this group from the Motor City spent years grinding the Chitlin circuit before breaking through in 1971. Some people have hearts of stone. With one of the most emotionally raw records of the era, What You See Is What You Get. That song didn't just chart, it became an anthem, a statement. Proof that Detroit soul wasn't finished after Motown started losing its grip. They followed it with In the Rain, a stunning, aching ballad that showcased lead vocalist Ron Banks at his absolute peak. The Dramatics were now legitimate stars, with a sound that blended gritty street soul with lush cinematic production. Labels were interested, audiences were devoted, everything pointed upward, but the group was quietly being hollowed out from the inside. And personnel changes, the great curse of vocal groups, began reshaping the lineup in ways that damaged the core chemistry. Ron Banks and William Howard, the 2 voices most essential to the Dramatics' identity, developed a rivalry that simmered for years before finally boiling over. disputes over songwriting credits, lead vocal assignments, and artistic direction created a toxicity that no amount of hit records could paper over. By the time the 80s arrived, the Dramatics had splintered into two competing factions, both touring, both using the name, both diluting the legacy. Fans didn't know which version to trust. Radio didn't know which version to support. And a group that should have been household names well into the next decade instead became a cautionary tale about what happens when brotherhood turns into rivalry.
Quick question, are you subscribed? If not, you're part of the 99% who watch and disappear. Here's the problem, YouTube won't show you our next video unless you subscribe. So if you want more untold music stories like this, hit that button right now, 2 seconds, do it before you forget.
Number 10, Labelle Before Destiny's Child. Before TLC, before any conversation about fierce, fearless women in R&B, there was Labelle. Patti LaBelle, Nona Hendryx, and Sarah Dash weren't just a group.
Hello, hey Joe, you wanna give it a go?
They were a movement. Their 1975 single, Lady Marmalade, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and introduced the world to a sound and an image that was entirely defiantly their own. Silver costumes, platform boots, voices that could shake a concert hall down to its foundation. And then, at the very peak of their power, they walked away from each other. The decision came in 1976, announced quietly, almost without explanation. No dramatic public fallout, no leaked feuds, just three women who had decided that the group had taken them as far as it could go. Nona Hendryx wanted to explore rock and new wave. Sarah Dash wanted to pursue a solo path, and Patti LaBelle, well, Patti had long been the centerpiece, and everyone in the industry knew it. What makes LaBelle's story so fascinating is that their breakup wasn't fueled by bitterness. It was fueled by ambition. Each member believed she had more to offer the world than the group's format would allow. And they were right. Patti went on to become one of the best-selling artists of the 80s. But LaBelle, as a collective entity, never recaptured the lightning of those peak years. They reunited briefly, recorded new music, and showed flashes of the old fire, but the cultural moment had passed. Success had given each woman enough confidence to fly solo, and in doing so, it grounded the group forever. Number 9, The Whispers. Few groups in R&B history are as underappreciated as The Whispers. Formed in Los Angeles in 1963, they spent a full decade building their reputation song by song, show by show, developing a silky, soulful sound that owed debts to doo-wop, classic soul, and early disco. By the late 70s, they had built one of the most loyal fan bases in black music. And then came 1980. And The Beat Goes On was a phenomenon. A dance floor earthquake that introduced The Whispers to an entirely new generation of listeners and sent them straight into the top 5. Suddenly, a group that had been grinding for 17 years was everywhere on radio, On television, at the center of a mainstream moment, they had earned the hard way. But that mainstream moment came with a price. The Whispers' audience was older, devoted, and deeply connected to the group's slower, more intimate ballad style. The new fans wanted the up-tempo sound. The label wanted more dance records. And the Whispers found themselves pulled in directions that threatened to split their identity in two. Then came a tragedy that put everything else in perspective. In 1990, founding member Wallace "Scotty" Scott died after a long battle with AIDS, one of the earlier high-profile losses in R&B to the epidemic. The group continued, honoring his memory and maintaining their touring schedule, but the emotional toll was immeasurable. They never quite reclaimed the commercial heights of their early 80s peak. Success had found them late, tested them hard, and extracted a cost that no award or chart position could ever balance out. Number 8, the Delfonics. Close your eyes and picture Philadelphia in 1968. Now hear this. La La means I love you. That descending falsetto, that orchestration, that impossible sweetness. That was the Delfonics, and in that moment, they were the most romantic group in America. Producer Tom Bell and songwriter William Hart had created something genuinely rare. A sound so specific, so emotionally precise, that it became the blueprint for an entire subgenre of soul.
And here's the part the message goes.
Philly soul owes its existence, in large part, to what the Delfonics built in those early years. By 1970, they were hitting with Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time, a Grammy winner that confirmed they weren't a one-hit wonder. They were legitimate architects. The question was whether they could sustain it.
Number 2 goes.
They could not. And the reason is one of the oldest stories in music. The star and the hitmaker couldn't stay in the same room. William Hart, the group's falsetto lead and primary creative voice, had a complex, contentious relationship with Tom Bell, the producer responsible for shaping the Delfonics' most beloved work.
That's oh so true. Look in the mirror.
As success grew, so did the tension over creative control and financial arrangements.
Somebody loves you.
Bell eventually walked away to build the next chapter of Philly soul with the Stylistics and later the OJs. Without him, the Delfonics sound shifted. The records kept coming, but the magic was dimmer. Personnel changes destabilized the lineup. And by the mid-70s, one of the most influential groups of the soul era had largely disappeared from the charts. The irony is brutal. Their early success attracted the very opportunities that pulled their architect away and left them unable to build anything as magnificent again. Number 7, the Isley Brothers. Now here is a group that survived more than almost anyone in the history of black music. The Isley Brothers began recording in the late 50s. They cut Shout in 1959. They scored It's Your Thing in 1969. They dominated the 70s with That Lady and Fight the Power. By any measure, they were survivors, and yet even they could not fully escape the gravitational pull of success turned destructive. The crack came in the 80s. Younger brothers Ernie and Marvin, along with brother-in-law Chris Jasper, had been the engine of the group's funkier, more electric sound throughout the 70s. They were talented in their own right, and they knew it. In 1984, after years of tension over creative credit and profit sharing, the trio broke away to form Isley Jasper Isley, thus scoring their own hit with Caravan of Love. What remained of the original group, primarily Ronald Isley, continued recording and touring, but the split fractured something essential. The lush, layered sound that had made albums like 3+3 and The Heat Is On iconic required all of those voices, all of those instruments, all of that internal chemistry. Without the full lineup, the Isleys became a legacy act rather than an ongoing creative force.
You said dancing, but when I just...
The family eventually reconciled, but the commercial momentum never fully returned.
You said sharp then, tell me which...
And the story of the Isley Brothers remains a painful reminder that even the most resilient groups have a breaking point, and that the success which finances freedom can also fund the decision to leave.
While you at it, call a cab.
Number 6. The moments they don't get enough credit. The moments later known as Ray, Goodman and Brown were responsible for some of the most heartfelt, intimate soul music of the 1970s. Based out of Englewood, New Jersey, the group built a devoted following through records that felt less like performances and more like confessions. Look at me. Love on a Two-Way Street in 1970 went top 5 pop, top 1 R&B, and introduced millions of listeners to a tenderness in soul music that was rare at the time. Their run through the early to mid-70s was quietly remarkable, consistent charting, devoted radio support, a sound that was immediately recognizable. And then the machinery of the music business caught up with them. In disputes with their label, All Platinum Records created legal and financial complications that kept the group in limbo for critical years. By the time they re-emerged under a new name and new label structure as Ray, Goodman and Brown in 1979, the landscape had changed. Disco had crested and crashed. New wave was moving in. The warm analog soul they specialized in was being pushed to the margins of commercial radio. They scored one more significant hit, Special Lady, in 1980, and then the silence closed in. What's most heartbreaking about the moments is that their downfall had almost nothing to do with talent or internal conflict. They were victims of business, of the machinery that surrounds black artists and so often devours their earnings, their momentum, and their shot at lasting commercial power. Success had come. It's everywhere. The infrastructure around it had failed them completely. Number 5. The Stylistics. If the Delfonics built the Philly soul template, the Stylistics perfected it. Formed in Philadelphia in the late 60s, the group rose to national prominence in the early 70s under the guidance of producer Tom Bell. Yes, the same architect who had left the Delfonics behind.
But they come true.
With Russell Tompkins Jr.'s crystalline falsetto at the center and Bell's lush orchestrations surrounding it,
When I'm near you,
The Stylistics created a string of records that remain among the most beautiful in soul history. You Are Everything,
Genie in the sky.
Betcha by Golly, Wow, Break Up to Make Up, You Make Me Feel Brand New. 4 top 5 pop hits in just a few years, and then Tom Bell left again. The pattern was becoming familiar. Bell moved on to other projects. The OJs, Elton John, and Denise Williams and the Stylistics were left to navigate without the sonic architect who had shaped their identity. They signed with H&L Records, began working with Van McCoy, and tried to maintain the momentum. The records were professional, they were polished, but something essential was missing. What made it worse was the timing. Just as their stateside commercial power was declining, the group became enormous in the United Kingdom. Their ballad sound resonating deeply with British audiences in a way that gave them a second commercial life. But that British success created its own tension, pulling the group toward a more middle-of-the-road sound that alienated their core American fan base without fully replacing it. By the end of the 70s, the Stylistics were caught between two audiences, satisfying neither fully.
If I could,
And Tompkins, whose voice had been the group's most irreplaceable instrument, would eventually depart, leaving behind a group that bore the name but not the soul. Number 4. The Temptations. To include the Temptations on this list is not to diminish their legacy. It is to honor the truth of it. Because the Temptations are simultaneously one of the greatest groups in the history of recorded music and one of the most tragic stories in all of soul.
You're such a lucky guy.
The body count alone is staggering. Paul Williams, drinking himself to death and found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound in 1973.
In the world, she belongs to you.
David Ruffin, dead of a cocaine overdose in 1991. Eddie Kendricks, dead of lung cancer in 1992. Melvin Franklin, dead of a brain seizure in 1995. 4 of the group's greatest voices gone.
Just my imagination.
But the tragedy started earlier than the deaths. It started with David Ruffin. At the height of the Temptations' psychedelic soul era, 1968-1969, Ruffin was arguably the most exciting vocalist in popular music. In his work on I Wish It Would Rain and I Could Never Love Another was transcendent, and he knew it. He began demanding his name above the groups on concert marquees. He began missing shows. His behavior became erratic, his demands impossible.
With me.
Motown fired him in 1968, and the wound never fully healed, not for Ruffin, whose solo career never matched his peak with the group. And not for the Temptations, who spent the next 4 decades cycling through lineups trying to recapture a chemistry that had been, once, genuinely unrepeatable. Success had made Ruffin believe he was bigger than the group, and in reaching for more, he lost everything that had made him extraordinary in the first place.
Away with me.
Number 3. Earth, Wind and Fire. This one will surprise people, because Earth, Wind and Fire is not a group we typically associate with failure. Maurice White's cosmic, Afrocentric, spiritually charged collective is one of the best-selling acts in music history, dozens of hit singles, multiple Grammys, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Their run from 1975 to 1981 is one of the most creatively fertile periods any group has ever produced. But in 1983, Maurice White made a decision that stunned the music world. He disbanded Earth, Wind and Fire. Not because of internal fighting, not because of a label dispute. Because he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a diagnosis he kept private for years, and because he could see the relentless touring and recording schedule was accelerating its progression. The group reformed in 1987 and continued recording and touring for decades, Maurice participating where his health allowed, stepping back when it didn't. But the reformation could not recapture the commercial peak of those late 70s records. The audience had moved on. The cultural moment that had made EWF the biggest band in the world had passed during those 4 years of silence. What makes this entry so poignant is that Maurice White's decision came from a place of genuine self-preservation. And the cruelty of fate is that the very success he had built, the empire that required constant maintenance and promotion, may have hastened the physical decline that forced him to step away. He passed away in 2016. Earth, Wind and Fire lives on, but the version the world fell in love with that version ended in 1983, and it never quite came back. Number 2, the OJs. Before we get to number 1, and trust us, number 1 is going to hit different, we have to talk about the OJs. Because their story is one of the most complex in all of R&B. Eddie Levitt, Walter Williams, and their rotating cast of members spent nearly a decade struggling before Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff gave them a home at Philadelphia International Records in 1972. And what happened next was nothing short of a revolution. Backstabbers, Love Train, For the Love of Money, I Love Music, Used to Be My Girl. The OJs became the flagship act of the Philly soul movement, political, soulful, urgent, and impossibly funky. Their run through the 70s was as consistent as any group in the genre's history. And then the Philadelphia international machine that had made them began to crack. Gamble and Huff became embroiled in a payola scandal in 1975 that damaged the label's relationships with radio stations and distributors. The commercial infrastructure that had been pushing OJ's records to the top of the charts was suddenly compromised. The group kept recording. The quality barely dipped. When she was mine, but the machinery behind them was broken, and without that machinery, the hits didn't move the way they once had. The OJs adapted, surviving longer and more gracefully than almost anyone on this list. But the peak, that extraordinary 5-year peak where they were untouchable, ended not because of anything the group did wrong. It ended because the business around them collapsed. And in music, as in life, talent alone was never enough. Number 1, Sly and the Family Stone. There is no story in the history of R&B, soul, or funk more devastating than this one. Sly Stone did not just make music. He rewrote the rules of what black popular music could be. By combining rock guitar, psychedelic arrangements, brass-heavy funk, and a racially integrated lineup at the height of the civil rights era, Sly and the Family Stone created something genuinely unprecedented. Dance to the music. Everyday people. Thank you. I want to take you higher. Family Affair. These were not just hits, they were cultural events. By 1969, the Family Stone was the biggest act in America. Their performance at Woodstock is still discussed as one of the greatest live sets in the history of rock and roll, and they weren't even a rock band. Sly Stone had simply transcended categories entirely, and then he disappeared. The years from 1970 to 1975 are one of the great unraveling stories in music history. Sly became increasingly reclusive, increasingly unreliable, increasingly consumed by cocaine and PCP use that his enormous success had made easily accessible. He missed shows, he showed up hours late. He alienated band members, management, and label executives with an unpredictability that made him almost impossible to work with. The 1971 album There's a Riot Going On, recorded largely by Sly alone, often while high, in a home studio, is a masterpiece of paranoia and decay. It is also the sound of a man dismantling everything he built in real time. The Family Stone collapsed around him. Members left. The hits stopped. The man who had stood on the Woodstock stage and turned 400,000 people into a single, unified, joyful organism spent the following decades in a slow dissolution, legal problems, financial ruin, homelessness at certain points, and a series of attempted comebacks that never reached the altitude of what came before. Sly Stone had everything. He was success itself, and he burned it all to the ground. Not out of malice, not out of stupidity, but because the machinery of the music industry handed a visionary genius more money, more access, and more freedom than any support system around him could manage, and then watched him fall apart. Number 1. And it's not even close.